from notes because you're not allowed to speak from notes in the House of Commons. I know that because I spent nearly 30 years there. I was elected 6 times to Parliament, 4 times as a Labour Member of Parliament, twice on my own. And I say that the consolation prize, when I beat people, they usually end up in the House of Lords. Afzal, so get your arm my road. I'm not a stranger here, despite what some people say on the doorsteps. My youngest child was born here exactly 2 weeks ago. 2 of my other children live in Manchester. I'm living in Chorlton. My headquarters is in Levenshulme. And if I'm the Member of Parliament, everybody will know about it. The one thing I did agree with a previous speaker was this. If Labour win this seat at the general election on June the 8th, absolutely nothing will change. Absolutely nothing will change. As Jess said at the beginning, and let me put numbers on it, according to the Save the Children Fund, 43% of the children in this constituency are officially living in child poverty. Even more staggering, 74% of the families in this constituency are officially classed as low-income families. And I say to the Labour friends here, that's an absolute disgrace. Manchester is great, but Gorton is being left behind. Gerald Kaufman was my friend for 33 years. And trust me, Afzal, you may call him your friend, he never called you his. He used to say to me, Afzal Khan, over my dead body. That's what he used to say, Afzal Khan, over my dead body. And I'm determined that that will not come true. I'm determined that that will not come true. I'm determined that this constituency will have someone who will make a difference, who will make everyone sit up and take notice. Because if that doesn't happen, those statistics that I have given you will not alter one jot. Peter is right. We're at a crossroads. We're at a crossroads in our country, and we're at a crossroads in international affairs. This is a dangerous and unstable time, and Parliament needs someone who understands what's going on. Well, first of all, I don't believe for 1 minute that Marine Le Pen will be elected President of France. The great people of France will unite against her, whoever is the candidate in the second round. And I hope that that candidate will be my friend for 20 years, Mr. Mélenchon, who is the radical candidate, who is currently at the heels of the establishment parties, offering the same kind of radical political alternative that I'm offering in this constituency, and to some extent Jeremy Corbyn is offering as leader of the Labour Party. I think that he has a very good chance of being the candidate against Le Pen in the second round. But Peter is absolutely correct when he says that this is a crisis of the establishment political parties all over the world, in the United States, in France, in Greece. In France, the Labour Party will score something like 10% of the vote. The President of France, Hollande, had to leave the contest when his personal opinion poll ratings reached 4%. The Labour Party in Greece is now extinct, eclipsed by the rise of a left-wing respect. But this is a crisis of the establishment. the people of France, suffering in the same kind of austerity as our country has been made to suffer, don't consider any of the establishment alternatives to be the answer to their problems. And some of them in some countries break to the left, some of them in some countries break to the right. But the beauty of the French system is that there has to be a second round. I believe that Le Pen will get the highest votes tomorrow in the first round of voting, but I don't believe that her vote will rise in the second round. And so the nightmare scenario of the questioner, I believe, will not arise.
Thank you, George.
Jackie, that would have had a bit more credibility if you hadn't spent 5 years propping up the Tories, putting them into power, supporting every austerity measure, tripling university tuition fees, all for a seat in the back of a ministerial Montego. Nick Clegg pledged in blood that he would scrap student tuition fees, and then he tripled them. So for you to have the gall to talk about austerity and the impact that it's had on this community, when there would never have been a Tory government if you hadn't put it into power. You haven't kept it in power for 5 long years. The reality is this: what you're voting on is an opposition. The Tories are going to win this election, not by nearly as much as they think they will, but they're going to win it. The question, therefore, is who is best to oppose them, to defend you against them? Who's got the best voice, the clearest voice? Who's got the clearest ideas to stand up against them? Who doesn't need to bring notes and read from them at his first hustings in a general election campaign? I'm not stuck in 1997. 1977. I have 1 million followers on social media. 1 million. 1 million of them are watching this on my social media this evening. So I actually have a lot of sympathy with the points that you're making about direct democracy, though I just mentioned to you that not everybody's on the internet. Not everybody's got a smartphone. Not everybody is on Twitter or Facebook. Well, of course, increasingly, more and more are. I have a lot of sympathy for that point, but we mustn't confuse form with content. The content of this election is not about direct democracy or representative democracy. It's about who's going to be the MP here to help oppose an almost certainly re-elected Conservative government. There is nobody in here, in their hearts, who believes that Labour is going to win a majority in this election. But what might happen is that there will be a collection of people, a kind of rainbow of people, who might be able to at least minimise the Conservatives' victory, and might even be able to block the return of Theresa May to Downing Street. And I'm certainly in favour of that. It's not either or, Peter. I left school at 17 and went to work in Michelin tyres. I made ZX radial tyres. Most MPs can't even change a tyre, never mind make one. And I joined the Transport and General Workers Union on Christmas Eve 1973, and I'm still a member now of Unite. I support workers, all workers, who stand up for their rights, who oppose the bosses' attempts to cut their wages and conditions in real terms. It's not either or. It's not syndicalism or politics. It's politics and trade union power. It's parliament and councils. It's local community organisations like this one, and all kinds of civic organisations acting through the internet and outside of the internet. We've got to build in this country a coalition of people who say that £10 an hour is the minimum living wage in this country, and we demand it, and we're going to fight for it. That 1 million council houses must be built to solve the housing crisis. That we will not accept austerity in the way that Labour did, by the way. Somebody said it earlier, I think it was Jackie. The pathway to many of the wicked things that have been done over the last few years was paved by Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. They introduced many of the things, including tuition fees. I opposed the introduction of tuition fees. Gordon Brown said to me, it's only £1,000. I said it's the principle. And one day, that £1,000 will be £10,000. And he laughed. Oh, how he laughed. Well, it's nearly £10,000 now, and nobody would bet against it being £10,000. So these are not either-or questions. And you shouldn't be seduced into imagining that they are. On this, I believe that we can win. We can put together a wide enough coalition, powerful enough, to stop the descent into the Americanization of the British National Health Service. When I entered Parliament exactly 30 years ago, next month, Mrs. Thatcher was well into the course that we have followed ever since, which is the increased use of the private sector in what is supposed to be a publicly funded, free at the point of need, national health service. And Jeremy Corbyn and I opposed it then, and we opposed it as rebel Labour MPs when Tony Blair and Gordon Brown continued us down that path. And Jackie is right that one of the major reasons for the financial crisis in the National Health Service is the cost of the payments being made to the private sector and to the owners of NHS facilities under the bogus PPP and PFI initiatives. It's vitally important that we defend the finest achievement in this country of the 20th century. It is something that most people in Britain are ready to defend. But the reason why the Green Party couldn't get the support that they deserved when Caroline Lucas introduced that bill is that Labour was fatally compromised by the fact that they would be condemning things that they themselves had initiated. So if I'm the MP, I'll be sitting behind Jeremy Corbyn, and I'll be one of the few that doesn't have a knife in my hand, ready to stab him in the back. And I'll support this campaign for the nationalisation, the renationalisation of the National Health Service, properly funded, national in character, and forever free at the point of need. Thank you. Record with Afzal, and I'll direct my comments. I'll direct my comments to Jackie because she implied, more than implied, that this was not a question for her, but it is. You see, Tim Farron has ruled out going into coalition with the Labour Party in this general election, but refused to rule out going back into coalition with the Conservative Party. So if you vote for Jackie in this general election, you're voting for a party that is ruling out being in coalition with Jeremy Corbyn, but refusing to rule out keeping Theresa May in power. So you should know that. You should go into this election with your eyes wide open on that. Jeremy Corbyn has been my friend for almost 40 years. I sat next to him literally for, on most days in the House of Commons for almost 30 years. He's a good and honest man. He's by far and away the best person running to be Prime Minister in this country, and when I have the chance to do so, I will always defend him and support him. Now, it's true that 172 Labour MPs have spent the best part of the last 2 years stabbing Jeremy Corbyn in the back. And most of them, Afzal, have been on your Twitter feed campaigning for you in this election. That's the truth of the matter. Most of them have been here. Tom Watson and a whole rag bag of others. If I'm elected, I will support Jeremy Corbyn until my last breath. Thank you very much. Well, I have 4 children under 10, and so the issue that's raised is of vital importance to me, because the danger, especially for children, of being hit by cars at 30 miles an hour or more is a real and critical problem for people with children and people without children. I support a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit throughout Manchester. I don't believe that any car needs to go faster than that in this city. And on the subject of roads, half of Manchester City Council's Highways Committee are councillors from this constituency, and you only have to go outside to see how poor a job they've done. I have never seen so many potholes in any place in this country than I have seen in the Manchester-Gorton constituency. I watched with my own eyes on Hyde Road a motorcyclist coming off his bike, hitting a pothole. Potholes and poverty and uncollected rubbish are the legacy of Labour in Manchester-Gorton. I'm glad you planted trees, Jackie, but I don't know how many trees have been cut down for all your leaflets in this election. I've never seen so many pieces of leafless paper saying the same thing going through so many doors. I fully support the Friends of Knoxford Vale campaign. I fully support it. I agree with Jess. Dr. Marx said that under capitalism, all that is sacred will be profaned and all that is solid will melt into air. The economic and political system that rules almost all of the globe is despoiling, destroying the atmosphere, destroying the earth itself. On the subject of pollution, there's an article in today's newspaper that shows that 80% of people in Britain are living in areas with dangerously high pollution rates. And we have to do something about that, or all these other political discussions will be odious. Lastly, I make this point, it's a slight digression, but not really. We're living at a moment when nuclear confrontation is more likely than at any time since the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1963. And that's the ultimate environmental disaster. That's why I'm opposed to the Trident nuclear program. It's why I've opposed nuclear weapons all of my life, because they are the ultimate destroyer of the earth. It would have been a better question, the last one, if you'd asked them what their party's support on Trident. Because although everybody here said they were personally themselves against it, several of the candidates are standing for parties that are in favour of the renewal of Trident. On the issue of the oppression of gay people, I stand against it. You don't have to take my word for it. You can look at my record in Parliament over nearly 30 years. I absolutely oppose and find abhorrent the reports that are emerging from Chechnya. I'm against discrimination against anyone on the basis of who or what they are. and I will maintain 3 decades of opposition to prejudice and bigotry if I'm re-elected to Parliament. So it's unfortunate that you yourself raised the fact that you were the chairman of Children's Services. Because when you became the chair of Children's Services in Manchester, Ofsted reported that child protection was merely adequate. During the period that you were the chair of Children's Services, Ofsted reported that your services were inadequate. From adequate to inadequate. Inadequate in content. I'm quoting from Ofsted. Inadequate. What do you mean it's not true? Are you saying it's not true on camera?
Yes.
Ofsted, I have the paper. Ofsted found your department under your leadership to be providing an inadequate level of child protection. That is the fact. Inadequate child protection in Manchester. Imagine 43% of the children in Manchester Gorton living in child poverty. Imagine, in the second city of the 5th richest country on the earth, almost 1 in 2 of our children are living in child poverty. Shame on you. Well, there's no revolution around the corner. Neither is there direct democracy around the corner. And I'd like to thank the Levenshulme Community Association for organising this terrific event. It's remarkable that so many people have stayed so long to discuss politics. And Jackie, I have to again say, there's no point in standing up and making a radical rallying call, because you will forever be remembered as the people that put David Cameron in power. There's no point in bellyaching about Brexit, because David Cameron would never have been the Prime Minister of Britain if it hadn't been for you. That's the reality. There's 2 kinds of Labour on offer in this election, from Mr. Khan and from myself. He's Tom Watson's man, I'm Jeremy Corbyn's man.